Good morning, everyone. You would not believe what just friggin' happened. I had everything ready for the show. I had planned to get you guys ready for an elder I was going to have on. But it looks like we don't have that kind of time. So I'm going to have to call him live on air, and we'll tell you together what the situation is.
Hello.
Hello, Gerald. It's Tracey.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me. We are live right now on Revolution Radio, Studio A, TurtleIslandNews.info, Scottish Sovereigns on the Land, and Awake Radio. Gerald and I were talking maybe a half hour before the show, where everything just suddenly crashed on me. I can't even get into my own site, Gerald.
Yes.
So, I'd like to prepare people for what we're going to talk about. I had hoped to have a whole show to prepare them for next week when you were going to come on. And please join me again, because we have had some miraculous events happen within the last 24 hours.
Okay.
First of all, CERN has turned off their camera.
You turn your what off?
Their camera.
Okay.
So you can watch the experiment.
Yes.
Several of us on air have talked about what we saw, because you can take still images. That's no longer available. Where we saw, and it wasn't just shadow figures, Gerald, it was faces.
Yes.
Actual faces, and not just one. There was one big one, but it looked like a host.
Yes.
Of demons, for lack of a better term. And there have been 3 murders in the last 48 hours in and around CERN.
Mm-hmm.
Last time they were close to turning it on,
yes,
there was that huge earthquake in Nepal, which, I was telling people last week, Nepal specifically has a whole bunch of inner earth mythos, and said when the sky god came down, when he was called...
In other words, Tracey, Agartha,
yes,
Shambhala.
Yes, the sky caves, yes, exactly, Gerald. And they said 10,000 people would die, and it looks like very close to 10,000 people have died.
Yes.
There. And they said the Lord of the earth would reawaken and come up from the underworld, or basically the abyss. That's what people call the abyss.
Okay.
Then
people got to understand.
Yes.
The star alignment.
Yes.
The Bible, the King James Version, and the Latin Vulgate is astrotheology. They anthropomorphized everything, and we're specifically talking about energy. Another word for energy is spirituality. And spirituality is learning how to manipulate the spiritual forces of light, or else the spiritual forces of darkness and evil. So what do you think CERN is all about?
Specifically?
You talked about it. You remember the time when you accidentally phoned a rabbi?
Yes, I did, who was trying to get on a plane.
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Remember the question that you asked him about CERN?
I asked about CERN, and I asked about the Tower of Babel. Specifically, surprisingly, both of those things.
Okay, now, CERN, Switzerland.
Yes.
Do you know what Switzerland means? Do you know what the etymology behind it?
No, please tell me.
Switzerland is called the Sisters of Isis.
Oh.
So why do you suppose Switzerland is neutral?
Well, let's walk in the middle path.
Let's walk in the middle path or the left-hand path. Where, in the left-hand path, they have manipulated the power of the woman.
Exactly.
To take away the woman's power, and that is why that they have abused all women all over the world. And you know the stories all across Canada where Indian women have been lost and they have been murdered.
Absolutely, Gerald. And I was telling people a while ago, because I was hoping to come back and visit you specifically this summer, and I was warned off the train.
Yes.
I'm a little too dark for my own country.
There you go. Now, let's not define Canada as a country. Canada is a corporation.
Exactly.
Canada is registered in the United States Security Exchange Commission as a corporation. So what is a corporation doing acting as a government?
Corpa. That's a body.
Corpora. Now, every indigenous people, whether you're red, yellow, black, and white, the authority that the Creator has given you to condemn somebody to death is based on this law. Secundum lone ditamen banter. Let me spell it out. You got a paper ready?
I do.
Secundum. S-E-C-U-N-D-U-M. Lune, L-U-N-E. Determine banter. D-I-T-E-R-B-A-N-T-U-R.
So, these words that you've just spoken to us, which means not just the word, as in banter. This is the canter of a magic spell, specifically attacking our DNA, the semen.
There you go.
The currency, the current.
The point.
Right?
23 chromosomes of the sperm to meet with the 23 chromosomes of the ovum. So you can manipulate that, couldn't you? Genetically.
Genetically.
Did they not produce the fallen angels? Did they not produce a hybrid that we call the 13th satanic bloodline?
Well, Gerald, you and I have had discussions, I wouldn't say arguments so much, that I was thinking everything was allegory until I found the 6th DNA code.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
This specific code, scientists are calling the shape-shifting code. It's not quite animal, it's not quite vegetable, and it goes back to Venus again, which we have talked about. When Gerald and I talk, and I wanted to present him to everyone who hasn't heard him before, because he is a wealth. He is one of our lost elders with knowledge here on this continent. I have to say that, Gerald.
Thank you.
Because
thank you for that endorsement.
Very few.
Do not forget, I'm only a humble man,
of course,
who received teachings from the elders. The people who had this information, and to have an open mind and an open heart to be able to receive information. So in other words, the journey within. The journey within, the answer lies within us. The answer lies within you, Tracy,
Yes.
and all the people who are listening.
We were told we'd go back to the temple, yes?
Yes. And sorry to say this, though, but the Bible says that that your body is a temple of your spirit. Bingo, yes. So let's study that. And this
Please.
is what CERN is trying to manipulate for the dark forces, isn't it?
Exactly, and they're doing it. I mean, we've had full-out manifestation now. And people all over the world, within the last 48 hours, are complaining so much that doctors are posting it, of nightmares. The night horse, so the wind horse, basically. This is a big deal.
Yes. Absolutely. And if you look, and that's the links of this website called Silent Weapons for a Quiet War. In other words, what they're using is manipulating this energy that we're talking about now to produce scalar weapons. And a scalar weapons is electromagnetic in its design. But it touches on this subject of what we call quantum physics. Quantum physics, inside of it, is sacred geometry. Everything, the knowledge that we're talking about, the dark side has access to it, as referenced to, we talked about him once before, Dr. John Dee.
Exactly, Gerald. And I was hoping for us to just go into that, but if you don't mind, we could do a preamble.
Absolutely.
I wanted everyone to get ready for when John Dee went to Ethiopia.
Yes.
And took not just the books of Ethiopia that have the full Bible, the King's Bible,
Yes.
that he later rewrote to be the King James Bible.
Yes.
What he actually did is took the keys of Solomon.
Correct.
And the keys of Enoch, which contained the magic words.
Exactly.
To call the entity and to build a thing. And
Very good.
we didn't have a chance to go over the dimensions and the look of it, but this is CERN, guys. This is CERN. It's the knowledge that he passed on to the Rosicrucians and first gave to the Dragon Queen, or the Drag Queen of England.
Ah, very good. Historically, William Penn, Rosicrucian,
Yes.
created Germantown. It became known as Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Oh, that's a very remarkable piece of real estate. What do you think happened there? In other words, what I'm trying to say is that they definitely picked and chose certain areas on Earth to tap some energy, correct?
And you were the one who pointed me to this, Gerald, of how he came back from Ethiopia and
Yes.
immediately made the grid,
Bingo, yes,
the globe,
yes.
the points of light,
The ley or dragon line.
the dragon lines, the 1,000 points of light that was mentioned in one of the Bush's talks.
Precisely.
Exactly.
So when George Bush Sr. was talking about that, he was referencing the zodiac in the temple in Dendera. You know what the temple of Dendera was originally called? Bethlehem.
Yes.
Bethlehem, translate that into English, it means house of bread. Now, to manipulate that energy, what CERN is doing, anciently, this is what they have done, the dark side, and have they use it for their own purposes. And this energy that has entered into our land created havoc and chaos.
And that's exactly what they said they would do. Havoc
Uh,
and chaos, the two moons of Mars.
Absolutely.
I'm extrapolating on their names. I know their names are different, but it means havoc and chaos.
Yeah, but you got to realize, though, you just said an important word, planets.
Mm.
Let's find out what the planet really means. The word planet, when we use the word planet, is another word for seducing.
Or the planned net that we are caught in.
There you go, exactly. And we were stuck in this three-dimensional inside a cube, isn't that right?
Saturn, the god of time. After we got out of the purple haze, I've told them about that, child.
Wonderful.
Yes, I have. And then we were caught, and the keepers of the web that took over Kemet. Even Kemet isn't the ancient name for Egypt, where they said the gods of the red people and the gods of the black people would be slaughtered.
But the thing is, you got to realize, though, Tracy, the question that's right on the table in our discussion is we have to, first of all, decide on this question. Who built the pyramids of Giza?
There was actually this tale of one of the sons of Ham who built it, and Egypt was actually named after it, which I want you to be proud of me. I had ready until everything decided to explode around me.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Africa was not Africa until recently, it was Bulan.
Yep.
Just like we are Turtle Island.
Correct.
And that was a
name.
name.
Africa means land.
Land.
So they use that name, Africa, and they attach that name to that. Like the word Asia.
Yes.
Another one. And you all know what Asia is, right? Asia is, we have a geographical place. But what Asia means, do it. Work it out. That's what Asia means. You look at the word Asia Minor and Asia Major. Isn't those words used to describe how to manipulate your energy? So when we're saying Asian, look at the word Caucasian. You hear the word there? Caucasian, they use, and they use that mountain in the steppes.
The Ka and the Asian.
But
the Ka and the Asian is saying one side of the force, basically. We are going to use the word and the images for power.
Yes.
These are
eating from the knowledge of good and evil, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like gods.
Exactly.
Caucasian. Now, you see, what really happened there is the Anunnaki came down with the people that separated themselves from a creator. So they had an audience with the fallen angels in the Caucasian mountains. They brought them down and formed what we naturally called the Khazarians.
Yes.
Well, here we have a formation of understanding energy in regards to history. The god of time, which is Saturn, Saturn was called Chronos before.
Yes.
And that's where we get the word chronology. But based on the dark side, the history that they have written is based on them. One side only, manifest destiny.
Exactly. And the other thing I was going to play that I had already, I will play it for you guys Tuesday, that told the tale of the changing, the changeling, if you like, which said how every ancient text had been changed to even find the chosen people who are not the Khazarian Jews. They are not the Jews that were given Israel. They are not, and even they admit it.
Precisely.
They are fulfilling a prophecy that said, if they did this, and drank from the cup of death, and read from the cup of death, they even have in their mythos, in the Talmud, one of the Talmudic texts, that's called the Book of Life that made the golem.
Correct.
Which would only bring death if they spoke the magic words.
Correct. And we discussed it in many other times when you phoned me. We talked about Solomon's books of magic.
Yes.
That the Knight Templars dug up.
Yes. And took for them.
Yes. So once King Solomon was breaking away from the true teachings of the Creator, and he started using demons and evil spirits and the fallen angels.
And he even says, in my translation of this, he even said he split the angels and called to them.
Correct.
And they gave him gifts.
Correct.
And taught him teachings. The same as Enoch said the angels could do.
Precisely.
You know, Gerald, you and I have talked about this.
Yes.
And this was one of the things I was going to present. You know, I've spoke in the past about the planet at first being only inhabited by parthenogenetic women.
Correct.
Women are the scary thing that people were killed for. We are the hermaphrodites because we can do this. I just mean that women can fertilize their own eggs.
Precisely. The Immaculate Conception.
Yes, which is true. It can happen. And it's why the first thing any king does is kill the boys.
Correct.
Just in case some of us could still do it.
Precisely.
It's why they're doing it now. By
power given to the firstborn.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Women who did certain rituals, you eat certain things, you take of no meat. No one presents you flesh.
In regards to what you're saying, the power of the women in regards to enable a woman to give birth.
Yes.
You see the teachings that are behind it? No wonder the Roman Catholic Church is called Mystery Babylon.
Always.
They're using the power of the women. Sorry to be graphic, but they're using sexual magic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sex magic. It's what has been taught here. It's why we see sex in everything.
Yes.
And these people who speak without passion.
Reptilian brain.
Yeah. A piece of the brain, instead of calling it up from the earth and recycling it,
Precisely.
At one point, a choice was made.
Yes.
A choice that said, we will no longer be perfect.
Correct.
And when we went up and down the ladder, perhaps
Yes.
Jacob's ladder,
Yes.
and the pillow is in Winnipeg. I don't care how many people argue with me. I seen it. I touched it. This thing has power.
Correct. And also, you cannot forget when you and your friend were there, and the very energy that it had also Egyptian imagery there, didn't it?
It had imagery that could not have been made in England in the 900s. Couldn't have.
Nope. That's the old world, isn't it?
It is the old world that you find here.
The new world order.
The old world order that has defiled us.
Precisely.
You know, you and I have off air talked about these things, and I thought you were completely
Bananas.
Well, a little bit. I would not say bananas.
Yes. Yes.
But when you read deeper into the tales, even the stuff that got into the Bible,
Yes.
and the things, the apocryphal, the Enochian, the books of Jasper, who say these times, you will find me again.
Absolutely.
And we had a tiny little line in, I think...
Yes, but you got to realize also, in them constructing their Bible, the King James and the Latin Vulgate, they had to take certain books that were diametrically opposed to them. One of the most important books that they took out is called The Daughters of the Great Spirit, which is in reference to you women and the powers of the woman. Now, why do you suppose the dark side of evil took that book out and replaced it with a false one?
And then called us the Baphomet.
Precisely.
Because of the power.
Precisely. Now, you study history in regards to this Alexander the Great. In the Bible, he's referred as the he-goat. The one horn between its eyes. Oh, that's interesting. And Alexander the Great was called the Big Horn. But we're still anticipating the little horn, are we not? And that little horn is what we call the Antichrist. And the energy that we're talking about here in regards to CERN and even HARP and all these technologies that they have built, the silent weapons for a quiet war, that they manipulate the light spectrum. What? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the sound, one calls him the god of the air.
Correct.
Which is Wi-Fi.
There you go.
Which is what we use in our eyes. They're mimicking us.
Precisely.
And the one is the Lord of the Dance.
Correct.
Which is also our feet on the ground, and we will change the earth.
Yes. Now, you see, that's interesting. You said an interesting word, dead. Dead. In other words, when we're talking spiritually, the ancient peoples have said, and our ancient documents have said, when you are in the spirit, you are alive. So death implies separation from the source. So when you separate from the source, which is the And you talked about it, you touched on it, please talk about it, is photons.
Photons. They just smashed a photon. Even the photo, what that really means, the ancient name of this, when even they say they're trying to find the dark energy, they're trying to recreate the Big Bang.
Isn't that what they're talking about? The antimatter?
In the beginning there was darkness. Every ancient teaching says this.
Yes. There you go.
In the state of darkness dwelled the Creator. Name him what you will, he will not care what you call him.
Precisely.
Who spoke the words, "Let there be light." Also everyone says this.
Precisely. But let's go and bring things into perspective here. The earth became without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. How did it become like that?
I'm looking at something flew over us, Gerald.
Really?
Something, it almost cast a shadow.
Of course.
We were in the dark, so how could something cast a shadow? It was so different that was not the dark we were used to. That was a different kind of dark.
But you see, that's an important dynamic that you're just explaining. If you turn your back on the light, the source, the light, the spiritual light of goodness, if you turn your back on it and your body casts a shadow, doesn't it? Are we not in this day and age living in the shadows of things to come?
Which is so exact, Gerald. Thank you. Because even though there is light, there's always shadow. This is the way of things. But there are also ancient teachings about if you step into the shadow.
Correct.
Which talks about healing, but it also talks about death.
Precisely.
If you can use the words. Again, it's the magic words, which were brought up from Egypt. Not Egypt per se, but ancient Kemet, so Ethiopia.
Yes.
And these things were sealed.
Correct.
When we've heard this Song of Solomon and the Keys of Solomon, we've also heard the seals of. That
Correct.
You were not supposed to say these magic words. Words have power. Even now, our words that are Middle Eastern and Nordic and African and a whole bunch of words that we can't explain that are from here, this continent, on the turtle.
Mm-hmm.
Other than if you read the ancient texts that all say they used to come to the turtle for wisdom.
Correct.
And I would just slough this off if they did not give directions.
Okay.
And signs and symbols that meant a travel.
Yeah.
Like the first name of Moses was Captain.
Mm-hmm.
Translates to captain in most every language here on this planet.
Yes, but also, again, you have to realize, in this day and age, the language that we're using, which has been manipulated for them, like the word Moses, M-O-S-E-S, you cannot find any ancient documents that contain that name. Can you?
You can't. Just like Jesus, where the letter J was just invented a couple hundred years ago.
Correct?
No such guy.
Precisely. And of course, in the translation, the King James Version, 1611, what did they do? They took the Creator's Son's real name, Yeshua, and they turned it into Jesus. Look at the Caesars. You know, starting with Julius Caesar.
Yep.
And we talked about this many times. Didn't Julius Caesar fall in love with a woman? Her name was Cleopatra, and they both got married. Now,
Yeah.
Cleopatra had a twin brother. His twin brother's name was Ptolemy. Now, who do you suppose that name, Ptolemy? And Ptolemy was one of the generals of Alexander the Great. Where did that word Ptolemy come from? It came from the first pharaohs, the Ptolemaic dynasty.
Yes.
The things that you're explaining about ancient Kemet, isn't that dynasty that the Ptolemaic existed and wrote about the true history of everything?
When they erased everything, just like Alexander did, just like every conquering, colonizing race has done,
Precisely.
they take a little bit of the ancient and throw their little hooks in.
There you go.
And then we are taught this as history. His story. Not truth, but a story
Precisely.
that cuts us out.
There you go. We become marginalized, don't we?
And boxed. We become chained or put in the prism like a prison.
Now let's look very carefully, and we were discussing this at the beginning of the show, and the whole subject is in reference to the Tower of Babel. In the building of Tower of Babel, it is known historically to be built by Nimrod. His father's name was Cush. Cush's father was Ham. All right? You follow so far?
I'm with you.
Now, you take Nimrod. Nimrod was classified to be a giant. If you take that literally, giant, well, you know what that entails.
Yes, and Barb Threecrow asked us to speak of the giants. I haven't said it, but he just got that from my head. Please continue.
There you go. You see, the word giant, and there's physical evidence, you can look it up into YouTube, where they found giant skeletons all over the world. How do you account for that? What is the story behind it?
Everything, and I've talked about this, everything was bigger at one point.
Yes, precisely it.
And the atmosphere here was thicker, so had more oxygen. We were more contained.
Bingo. That was before the flood. Exactly.
Yes.
The atmosphere was so conducive that the energy that they got from the sun, the whole Mother Earth was one gigantic jungle. Correct?
Everything says so. Every ancient dig they've done has said this world flourished.
Indeed. And they used to call this planet, once upon a time, Pangea.
Pangea, even Asia at one point. We're talking about the first island. And, you know, I've argued with people about ancient origins, but the facts are the oldest rock on the surface of this planet is here in Canada.
Precisely.
Can't be denied. The oldest rock, the things that had to crawl up, if that's what you believe, had to crawl up here.
Correct.
And there are certain plants that have no explanation but are everywhere.
Exactly.
So we're talking about the first island.
exactly on that note, what we're talking about, you take the camels. Automatically, when we're talking about camels, we usually associate camels in deserts, right?
Except the one that was found in
North America.
the land of the Inuit, buried under ice. Ice so old
Yep.
that it had no land under it.
Correct.
So a camel, like a camel, like anywhere, camel.
Yes.
And it was bigger. But it was
bigger.
Here.
Precisely. Even mammoths and mastodons. The origins of that. Now, you see, when we're talking about Pangea, but in that Pangea, we're talking about two specific geographical places. The lost continent of Mo and the lost continent Appalachia.
Yes.
And in the lost continent of Appalachia, did they not, in fact, build a city called Atlantis?
Yes, and there's still a little piece of Africa on this continent by the Appalachians.
Yes, but also there's something strange about this word. Do we not call the East Coast range of mountains the Appalachian Mountains, which is a remnant of the lost continent of Appalachia?
Yes, exactly.
So the fact of the matter is, the question that needs to be asked is who built the city of Atlantis? Did John Dee know it? Of course. All these false teachers, and they got all their information from the lost continent of Appalachia and the city of Atlantis. Now, historically, chronologically, isn't it a fact that what we're talking about CERN is to be able to develop the technology that was in Atlantis? Is that in essence exactly what's happening now?
They not only piece together, like I only, and I'm not bragging, know that I do. He got something in a horror that I could not have caught, who later talked about his Enochian writing, which means he got it from Enoch, guys. You're not just going to pull up that name. He got the magic words.
But the thing, again, that I must mention, there are two Enochs that we're talking about here, are we not? Are we talking about the son of Cain? The first son of Cain was Enoch.
He
built cities.
He did.
And there's another Enoch, the seventh son after Adam.
Yes.
So you got to be specific in regards to when we're talking about Enoch. No, we are not talking about Cain's son.
We're not.
And that Enoch is the infernal one. And
oh, it's two sides.
All the things that we're talking about that CERN is building is based on Cain's son. Now, listen very carefully. If Cain's son was Enoch, the god of the mountain, what is the god of their mountain called? Do you know, Tracey? Vulcan.
Yes.
Oh, does that remind me of the series of Captain Kirk, Star Trek?
Mars, the Vulcan. no
Yes.
feeling, who has said that his people had passion once, but decided to kill it.
Yes. In other words, but look at Mr. Spock.
Hmm.
His parent is the lineage. Is his father came from the Vulcan, but he had a human mother.
The old story. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Again of mixing
DNA.
ETs with human genes.
The giants.
There you go.
And the human female to create Nephilim.
There you go.
The sons of Saturn.
So in other words, what we're saying here to all the dear listeners, women, you are so sacred and holy. Do not allow anybody to get the best of you. Because inside of you, all of you women, is something so sacred and holy that the journey within that's the answer to the world. The teachings of the daughters of the Great Spirit. So when the women come home to that realization, and this is what you're pointing out in regards to the energy. You said something about the people who are running CERN, about the scientists. Would you tell the people about that, please?
Gerald and I had spoken of this before we were so rudely disconnected from the net. My father, who I've spoken to everyone about, has a friend that's working there. The scientists are under guard there because none of them want to do these things. They are under armed guard to continue the experiment.
So in other words, be careful, all you scientists that are out there. If you are there, try to find out the truth. And all scientists all over the world, they can prove that there is a creator scientifically. You all know what I'm talking about. You all know what I mean. But even in David Icke was talking to he had some friends that were scientists, and they have this sachet in front of their chest. And the chemical that was in there was orange. So, in other words, the scientist, exactly what you're saying now about your father's friend who's a scientist who's working there, all the scientists did not want to work for them. But the scientists, they did some experiments on him. A lot of scientists have lost some time. When they woke up, they found this sachet in front of their chest with this orange liquid. And it has to be filled up every 72 hours, or otherwise they would die. Can you imagine that for a moment? When bless the scientists who have found the truth, you are being used for another agenda. Isn't that the case, Tracey?
Yeah, 100%, Gerald. And this is one of the jewels that they can't name that was supposed to be on the chest of the first Israelite Jews, whatever you want to call them. The first people who had a chest plate of gems, which they can't identify now, that was supposed to help them speak directly to God.
Precisely. Now that's interesting. Then you call that breastplate Urim and Thummim.
Ur and Thum, yes.
So in other words, yes, when the high priest wore that breastplate with 12 stones. And those 12 stones were in reference to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yes.
And what the 12 tribes of Israel inside of your body is a 12-strand DNA. How precise can you become on a wonderful creator who has created us in this way?
Please keep
Scientists are beginning
talking.
to find that a lot of human beings have 12-strand DNA. And these people with 12-strand DNA, a lot of people call them the rainbow warriors.
Please keep talking, Gerald. I have to be right back.
Okay.
Sorry. Continue. Oh, first break, Gerald. There'll be a little intermission, and they're going to play some music. We're all going to be right back, everybody. Welcome back, everyone. So, I want to tell you a little bit of something before Gerald comes back about the stellar mythos that is everywhere. In the beginning, after the let there be light, which caused the Big Bang, which they want to reproduce. It's also the big conflict, the big struggle, the first war, which resulted in the creation of the universe, the university of which we are all attending. This war was raged since the beginning of time and is manifested at every level of existence. Amongst human beings, the Al-Jedi Knights, the wielders of the lightsaber, strive to maintain balance, order, unshakable stability. This stellar mythos, the sun, the soul, which you contain in your solar plexus, which is also a star, and the moon. This is a symbol of the celestial dual, D-U-A-L, or duality. It's manifested on Earth as a terrestrial dual, or conflict. This is why the star and the crescent is a prominent feature in at least 4 major modern science fiction. The stories of Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, Dune. The symbol, which is on most of the shields throughout this planet, is held sacred by the adherents to various Tariq orders of Sufi, who call the eternal struggle between the forces of right and wrong, left and right, by the name Jihad. The soldiers of Jihad are the Mu'addim, the Mu'abdim from Dune. This is not what we are being presented with right now. Our ancient myths that have been mutated, changed, are all telling us the exact same thing. They are telling us that even though the nature is dual, having greater and lesser qualities of the same fight, the lesser jihad is always a physical struggle against some external force. The greater jihad is always an internal struggle and a fight against one's own higher and lower self. Anyone able to master this struggle are called the master of the way of the mystic warriors, El-Jedi, the Jedi Knights. Gerald, are you back?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Gerald. Please, what would you like to add to that?
Very important information that you just said. Make people realize that they're incredible beings indeed. There are spirits first, occupying a physical body which was made by our parents, biological parents, through sex. And the stories of creation that is based on that is the ancient stories that our people had and contained. And our people taught that on the Great Turtle Island. And once upon a time we were called the Americos Empire. And we had this knowledge, and that this knowledge is coming back. With what Tracey is saying, we are in the midst of a shift in the paradigm where people are waking up and bringing everything into the conscious level. Could I refer that to the Christ consciousness? And the word Christ is a Greek word which means Messiah. And the word Messiah means anointing. Anointing with the oil. Spell the word oil, please. Capital letters. O-I-L. The O, the letter O, is a circle. The circle this is where we get the teachings of the circle from the women, the clan mothers, be as it may. The original teachers of the daughters of the Great Spirit. The Great Spirit in Hebrew is called Ruach HaKodesh, or the wife of the Creator. Everything within the wife of the Creator, the power that she had, and in this case we call her Mother Earth. The women are the recipients of that teaching in their human body, the blood lodge. And because I said the blood lodge, you women receive the power of the moon, and as a result, your menstrual cycle. And the powers of creation are within you, in which the womb is. The teachings of the women is to enable to give birth to an idea. This is in essence what we're talking about here in regards to this. We as men, we are a priest, the blood lord.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Gerald, for bringing this up. You are the Ma'el.
Yes.
This is the divine priesthood. This is the special being. These are, when I've talked about male and female and the parthenogenesis we did, and this is proven that we can still do this. When we decided to make a male, these were priests. These were the guys who could see into the future. These were always, you were always, men and my brothers listening right now, always supposed to be the seer of the way so you could bring us back home.
Precisely.
And we could do it together, or you would not exist. Genetically, excuse me, there is no reason for a male. Scientifically, there's no reason for a male other than when we walked down the Mount of Hormuz and decided to get our 33rd degree in our university, in our spinal cord, so we could walk and have limbs, we chose to bring ourselves a bit of heaven. This is the male. As much as we look at males right now as the ones so easily corrupted, and this is a true thing, men are not supposed to be like this. They are supposed to be the guiders of the way. Our partners. We, in perfection, decided we needed more to be physical. And then the male was manifested. Yes? Please go on, Gerald.
Precisely, exactly the words. You could not say it better than I could. Now the O in oil, anointing, the teachings of the circle. Mother Earth is a circle. The I is linear. That is the priesthood to the circle.
This is the DVD, the zero and the O.
There you go.
This is the story of the flat earth I was trying to explain to people, and now they're still arguing whether or not there's a flat earth. No, it's the DVD. Like Gerald's just saying. Please go on.
You said an important word, DVD. I'm going to add A and I to the vowels. D-A-V-I-D. What word did I spell?
It's David. It's why the AIs are always called David.
Precisely. Now, in history, this man who was called David, from the tribe of Judah, which held a scepter as a kingly rule, David is the heart of mercy. Do you understand what I just said? The heart of mercy. It says also, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is also. What do you treasure on earth? Earthly and worldly things that are connected to this physical world? To satisfy your fleshly desires? Or is the heart of mercy spiritual, where your emotions are? Now let's look very carefully about the heart. This organ that's in the center of our chest, that happens to be the Medes and the Persians in history, the chest of silver. Oh my goodness, didn't we say something here? Silver, woman. Silver, the metal silver.
The quicksilver that they tried to use for alchemy and didn't understand what they were reading.
Precisely. So in essence, exactly when we're talking about the periodic table of the elements.
Gerald, we're being joined by Barbara Threecrow, who's loving the conversation. Barbara, you with us?
To have you here, Barbara.
Hello, Gerald. Hi, Tracy. Yeah,
Hey,
I'm
sweetie.
really loving this conversation.
Did you have a question, sister?
I do. Sorry to interrupt.
Problem.
Okay, you know, I just came across this information last night. I don't know if you're aware of it. I'm sure you are, but there was this 108-year-old rabbi, Yitzhak Kaduri, who claimed that he was visited by the Messiah, and that when he died, before he died, he said that he would write on a piece of paper who the Messiah was, but they were not to open this paper until a year after his death. And he spoke about this. He wrote that the Messiah was Yeshua, of course, Jesus. But he also said that Yeshua, the Messiah, would only return after the death of Ariel Sharon.
Incredible.
Now, Ariel Sharon, after a few months after this rabbi said this, Ariel Sharon went into a coma. He was in a coma for 7 years. He died January 11th, 2014. The rabbi died not long after he spoke about that he was visited by the Messiah.
Incredible.
Yeah, so of course this spun the whole, all the people there in Jerusalem spun everybody around, of course, and now some are claiming that he didn't write the note. It was on his website. And he spoke about the Messiah, Yeshua, to his own people prior to his passing. So, yeah, it just came to my mind. I thought this is quite spectacular, and I was wondering if you knew anything about it, and what do you think about this? Because, of course, there's all this question about the Antichrist appearing, and some felt that Ariel Sharon would come out of his coma and that he would be the Antichrist. Of course, he didn't. He actually just died in 2014.
Gerald, may I speak first?
By all means.
You know, the people of our continent, the ancient Jedi, by the way, carry a shield of black and red and green, which is so deep. And we were told by the people of Nepal that this would be the year. They were not random. They were not off in their ways. They were saying our people, who they named as us here on this continent, would come into enlightenment 2015. They were precise of what we were fighting against. That there could be no light without dark, and that the boy, and they said boy, they actually used the name, the divine progenitor, which is deep, would be born here, and also his defilement would be born here.
Yes.
They talked about this year as being the year. We've all been told that 2012 was the year. No. Even the scriptures from the people there said it would be the start.
Yeah.
And they ruled by the time of 3, because 3 is divine. 3 is very important. This year is the year everything changes.
Precisely.
People will fight as they're happening. They said the ancient Jews will rise up this year, and they are the black in America. They are not the Khazarian Jews that were given the land that they never owned. They were never slaves. They were never, even Jesus said, even the stuff we get from what the guy said those people are not my people. They are not our people. And he predicted in a tiny little passage that's never spoken of, that when we rise up, we will find they own the air and the sound and the light. This is Wi-Fi. And it's all Khazarian Jews that own entertainment here. That has always been made as a witch catcher, these tubes. Always been made to program you. So I think, my sister, This is a year. Please go on, Joe.
Indeed, indeed, well said. The year 2015. Now, if you look in the website, Pillars of Enoch, written by a wonderful woman, Helena Lehman, she explains everything in regards to the star alignment. And if you look at another website called The False Gospel of the Stars, written by another woman, Barbara Aho. And it says there, emphatically, that in order for the Antichrist to come to power, there has to be certain star alignments. So what am I saying, Barbara and Tracey? Pay attention, watch, and pray. All these things that our ancient people knew is here now in prophecy. Prophecy is being fulfilled, indeed. The difference between light and darkness. And in the realm of spiritual light, I'm specifically talking about the law of one. The number 3. The Cree word for 3 is nstu. So the word that we use for understanding in Cree language is nstu tamawin. Doing the things of the 3. What 3? Is it in fact the Holy Trinity? If you are deficient in any one of them, it's only 2/3. If you're deficient in 2, it's only 1/3. So when we're specifically talking about the 3, the sacred number 3, look at the word again, oil, 0 or O, the teachings of the women, clan mothers. The I is a linear, and you put a vertical line in that circle. That vertical line is magnetic. The horizontal line in the circle is electrical, the powers of the sun. Magnetic, the powers of the moon, the energy of the moon. So, here we are in this day and age with everything that I'm talking about, is that we are in the age of Aquarius, where the water is going to be poured out. The Hebrew word for water or moist is shu. So when you put an A at the end, shua, you are spelling, it means saves. Being saved by the moistness and the secretions of the sacred woman's teachings, the clan mothers, the water. But the enemy has used that power of the water that you women possess inside your womb, where we have been conceived. The energy that's in there, that contains in there, to enable a biological child to be created. What is so special about that physical child is the DNA. And the information that's contained in the DNA in regards to the blueprint, the history of our biological parents. For the male side, it is the bloodline, and to the woman's side, which is the body, which is the deed, the title to Mother Earth. Everything that I'm talking about is ancient Hebrew And my language, the language that I speak, is Cree. It has been found out that the Cree language is ancient Hebrew. And I can really understand the language when you're talking about the light spectrum, which is the colors of the rainbow. And each color has a different energy. Purple or violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red is the energy centers inside of our body, what they call the chakras. The rainbow warriors, the people who are inclined to receive this information in humility, and receiving that information, that's what's being awakened now. O-I-L is a square. L is the word of length times width, which explains the formula E equals mc squared. Energy equals matter. The word matter comes from the word mother, or mot.
Ma'at, yes.
Indeed.
And Gerald,
here.
and Gerald, the water bearer, Aquarius, is the woman, as we know. I figured that out, that was manipulated to change it to a male figure, but it is the women that carried the water, and still today carry the water from the wells, and also, of course, the sacred womb. We carry the sacred water within ourselves, the womb that gives life, and the power that women were given. Of course, the women are sacred, as you say, chosen by the Great Spirit as the daughters. We were given the power of birth, the power of the blood, and the power to heal, to keep peace. And this is that time of the return of the sacred feminine.
Indeed it is.
You know, I want to add, even people who think English carries no power. We were told girls are sugar and spice and everything nice. What women carry is more ribose, which is sugar. It's RNA. And a little translation I did, Gerald, that I was not planning to read for you today because it's still rough, but
Please do.
after Adam and Eve succumbed to separate, even the Bible says they took a rib from Adam. The actual word for Adam was Adomos, which meant a combined being.
Correct.
Not male, not female.
Correct.
But one way or the other, we chose to separate. And by listening to the serpent in the garden and ate from the tree of knowledge in the book of Genesis, verse 3, chapter 3, verses 24, the angel Uriel was placed at the east gate, the Garden of Eden, with a flaming sword. The original translation is lightsaber.
Correct.
To keep the way of the tree of life safe and guarded. This is why in Hebrew the word Jedi is short for Jediah, meaning beloved of God. This story, tiny as it is so deep.
Very.
And we chose something. Maybe we'd like a challenge, I don't know. But we chose something. And this is why the Tomb of Eve, and it is called that, is buried in this place called Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. It's why these small people have found the blood of the earth, the oil. And they are so powerful. But look it up, people. The tomb of Eve is in Saudi Arabia.
Correct.
Do you know if you know the word sugar? You said we are sugar.
Yes.
If you spell sugar backwards,
Right.
it means ragusa,
Yes.
which is a Swiss chocolate.
We are awesome.
Swiss chocolate.
We're all that and a bag of chocolate.
Here you go.
But men contain something external which holds the cells of creation. We gave them that. Our brothers, our sons, our brothers. There's a connection there which we are told to ignore, but we know we can't. And it's why they're always used against us. It's why I talked about the divine battle being portrayed in that last gladiator friggin' sport against Mayweather and Pacquiao. The Ma versus Pa thing. Gerald, no, you get that. They want us to fight to the death. They want us to be gladiators. They want our men violent. And our men are not violent. They've been made into that image which is not ours.
Yeah. And
Well-
and you know, I just want to say this before you start, Gerald, because this just comes to me about the violence of our men. Sexual union, the sexual union was supposed to be initially a sacred union between man and woman. It was sacred. When you approach the sacred woman and you come together to create a living being, a child, another sacred being, the union of sex was originally a sacred union, and now it has become something so different.
Yes, we could be using this for healing. We could be using this to live forever. We're using this to, excuse the term, get off. Get off. Really? Here on this beautiful planet we want to leave? Even their vulgar terms of what they say we're doing means a defilement of what that act could be.
Yep.
Please go on, Gerald.
Well, let's establish something here. Let's bring things into perspective. Freud, Sigmund Freud. All of you are quite familiar with that gentleman. In his psychoanalysis, he said, because of the male, because their inability to be able to have sex with a woman creates problems with the man. And you're talking about violence to a man. In the book that Jamie Sams wrote about the 13 original clan mothers, she wrote there she was taught by a Kiowa Apaches, Kiowas in elderly women. Kiowa is a Cree word, means a Kaiwachchik, which means that they are very bright. Now in that book, the Kiowa grandmothers taught Jamie Sams, who by the way came from the state of New York, Barbara, and also
Yes.
she was told by the Kiowa grandmothers an important statement that you men must hear. The lack of love from a true woman, the Divine Mother, the Great Spirit, without that teachings from the Sacred and Holy Woman, we are deficient in that love, that spiritual love that we're supposed to receive from the women is not there. So it creates a deficiency of a need, doesn't it? The next step of that is the cause and effect. After that is power and control. Conquer and divide. Trial and error. Supply and demand. The dark side have used that very eloquently in government, in religion, in the economy, in education, for their destiny of the New World Order through the United Nations, to get ready for the dark side to come into fruition. And at the beginning of the program, we talked about CERN and about rebuilding the Tower of Babel. And in the building of the Tower of Babel, if you read Zechariah chapter 5, Zechariah seen a scroll flying in the air. It was 15 feet by 30 feet, and in there it's a curse that has been given to earth. And this flying scroll contained on one side of the scroll people who steal, and on the other side people who swears falsely. And that is the curse that have been brought into the Great Turtle Island, is this curse that we're living under now. So the flying scroll is the curse that is upon us now. Like I said before. But in the same chapter it talks about this basket. And inside this basket is the sins of all the people. In this basket there was a woman sitting inside this basket. Sitting inside the sins of the people. This woman. And this woman was called wickedness. And when we use the word wickedness, we're specifically talking about the economy, commercial terms, the power behind the money. Who are the people behind the money? Are naturally the 13 satanic bloodlines. And the Merovingians or the Moravians are the ones that are the top satanic bloodline. And who do you suppose is in the bloodline of the Merovingians?
The Dragon Queen?
Queen Elizabeth II.
The Drag Queen?
Have you ever heard of the word Pendragon? Author of the Pendragon? Arthur was the father of King Arthur. King Arthur in the Round Table. Another word for Arthur is the bear. What is the symbol of the bear in Russia? Communism. International communism. The right side of the bear is male, which is Russia. The female side of the bear, the feminine side, is China. Is Russia and China communist? Is that what they're playing against us in the Hegelian dialectic?
And they shouldn't. Those are our people too, you know. They have so much of our DNA, Gerald. It's not even funny.
Indeed. inside our DNA, but there's one of them that you forgot to mention is the RNA. And also this important word, please, and you women can describe this about the power of the woman, your mitochondrial DNA. So the scientists have found out the origin of the mitochondrial DNA, and the first woman, physical woman that was created, ladies and gentlemen, was a black woman. But how do you produce black? With the three colors of yellow, red, and blue. You mix those colors, you produce black. How do you produce white? With orange, green, and purple. How do you get orange? Red and yellow. How do you get green? Yellow and blue. How do you get purple? Red and blue. The light spectrum is understanding that and the energy that's behind it. Ultraviolet rays. To the top and to the bottom, red, infrared. You know, you get to the point, you know what I'm talking about, ladies. As you know, opposites attract, doesn't it?
Yes.
The women, excuse me for being graphic, but your holy of holies, ladies, is your vagina, which is the negative, where you receive. The powers of the earth, magnetic. And isn't our chakras magnetic in essence?
Oh, Gerald.
Pardon me?
Oh. We are just energy beings. This is energy exchange we're doing here. Nothing else.
Exactly. That is all. We're explaining energy exchange. For the male and female, masculine, feminine, and so on and so forth. And in the beginning, in the beginning, Tracey, you talked about the Big Bang Theory.
There was black.
Indeed.
And then there was light.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. We just explained something biologically that you can understand on a spiritual level, which translates to energy.
And they want to create the element that they are calling the bosonic field, which is the spaces between the parts.
Right.
Our parts. The parts that hold the fabric together. They're calling it dark energy, but just because they demonize.
The frequency of life, really.
Indeed it is. Absolutely, Barbara. The frequency.
Gerald, they said today, and reiterated what they said before, that we will open dimensions, and the doctor said they lost time when they did this horrific thing.
But the only time where time is of great essence is when we enter in our solar system. Outside of our solar system, which we belong to the Milky Way galaxy, oh, interesting word.
Milky Way solar system. Our soul is our solar plexus.
Here you go. The color of yellow.
It is also the sun.
Thank you.
And
but the real color of the sun is green. But the green color in our chakra is the heart of mercy, which King David had.
Yes.
Are we onto something here that
The
is so
DVD, the
significant?
flat earth. You know, I regretted talking about the flat earth because people are talking about it now and they're missing the point of what I was talking about, because there is no point in a flat earth.
But let us use that discussion what you're calling the flat earth. The word oil, L, the letter L, length times width. It's flat, isn't it? Two-dimensional.
It's two-dimensional, yes.
And it's flat.
And it's flat.
Is that what they're in essence saying, the flat earth? Is they're referring to the length times width in mathematics?
They were trying to give an explanation for dummies. They apparently realized there'd be a time when we could not speak to our elders again. They were telling us this is the start. And then when we move, it becomes something else. And it still goes back to the pentacle and the pentagram. And then it becomes the Merkaba. And then it spins off and back into the zero.
Very good indeed, because if you look at the word Merkaba, Mer means water, Ka means spirit,
Yes.
Ka means soul.
And that's everything. That's the three.
Yes?
The Divine Trinity is the combination of the three.
There you go. Now, if you look at the Merkaba, a 3-dimension in a cube, you can develop a Merkaba in that cube. Every side of the cube, the center of it, which is what they call the circumpunct,
Yep.
in a circle within the square.
The circle and square. Yes. Thank you, Gerald.
So, when that happens, look at the Merkaba. The point pointing up rotates clockwise. The one point going down is counterclockwise. Let's look at the motion of that and the energy that's behind it. E equals mc squared. Energy equals matter times the speed of light. And I'm sorry to say, for all the scientists in the world, 186,000 miles per second is too slow. We indigenous people that know the truth, being Jedi Knights,
Yes.
we know that the speed of light is faster than that. Can you imagine just for a moment the journey within, when you come to the truth, that the speed of light that will enter into you? My goodness gracious, what are we? The dynamic. The dynamic. When the woman moves, the Creator Father will speak. When the Creator Mother moves, the Creator Father will speak.
You know, when they said, Gerald, Uriel was guarding the East Gate.
Yes.
UR is also the name of a place.
Yes.
A place that is not in Al-Kabulan, what they're calling now Africa. It is here, on the green stone. I am actually the Red Queen sitting on the green shield.
There you go.
Gerald lives on the oldest part of the oldest land on the earth. Proven.
Correct?
Proven. And it's shaped like a U.
Mm-hmm.
Uriel. The U land that's here. They told you where you would have to go in the end days, and next week I'm going to talk to you about the stories of Enoch that were stolen but alluded to, that not only had the keys, they had the magic word and the secret to everlasting life. A little passage in the Bible just said, and God was pleased with Enoch.
Indeed.
There's no other place in the Bible that said God was pleased.
That's right.
Which means this is important.
Yes. You see, there's an interesting book, the last book of the Bible, Revelation, or what they call the Apocalypse. There's an interesting statement that Yeshua, the real name, said. And he says, I hold the keys of death and the grave, which means everlasting life, doesn't it?
It does.
Now, let's look at his physical body here. He was given a physical body while he was walking here. And the book that's sitting in the museum in London, he walked the Americas. There's an interesting statement in the Bible, and please check it out, and that is that Yeshua, or Jesus, said, I am only, let me repeat that again, I come only to the lost house of Israel.
Oh, and we're done for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Gerald, so much for joining me. Thank you, Barb, for joining me. Please join me next week where we will continue the discussion. I hope you learned a lot.